Bola Odetokun. I'm the CEO and founder of Parenting Resources and Initiatives. It was started sometimes in 2012, and basically we provide resources to families, parents and youth alike, especially people of color and immigrants, because we understand that these categories of people have, I don't want to use a word that is politically incorrect, but for many of us, we still try to understand the system. And we found out that if parents don't even understand the system, there's no way they can help their youth. There's no way they can help their young children adapt and adjust and thrive in the system. So our core mission is to help families. We do seminars, we do calls like this, sometimes we actually do in-house visits to help at-risk youth. Sometimes it's communication between parents and children, and we also have some specialized resources, like we have counselors, we have therapists that volunteer their services from time to time to help us when the need arises. So that's basically what P.R.I does. Bola Odetokun, I'm an IT person. I'm an Oracle database administrator. I've been in that field in the US for over 14 years now. I've worked with top IT consulting firms, but I currently work with General Motors. I have 2 young adult children who are doing well by the grace of God, and they are part of my journey. They call me to order every now and then, and I'm glad that I have them in my life. I wouldn't do it another way. There's no child that is perfect. There's no youth that is perfect, but we have to always strive to understand them and be in their corner. To the extent that we can understand them, that's how we can help them, And I've written many articles on parenting and family issues, and I do seminars across the US, Canada, and Nigeria. So your host for today, I have a distinguished panel with me here today, and I'm going to start introducing them. Attorney Lawrence Lewis. I'm not going to read through the entire bio, but he used to live in New York City. He did his undergrad from Pace University. He graduated in 1989 with a degree in marketing and psychology, and then he did grad school at New York University. He has worked in several areas. He has worked as an investigator for the New York Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Children. He also he completed his coursework at New York University in the fall of 1991 and attended the officers basic course in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, before starting at Cornell. During the winter recess of his first year at Cornell, he also completed his dissertation for grad school, and he was awarded his master's degree in philosophy in May of 1993. 2 years later, he graduated from Cornell Law School. After graduation, he accepted a position as an assistant district attorney at the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office, where he spent 3 years as a prosecutor. His 3 years was spent prosecuting thousands of misdemeanors, conducting thousands of preliminary hearings for felony cases, and hundreds of felony bench trials. In July 2020, he and his wife will celebrate their 29th wedding anniversary. You deserve an applause for that. Woo-hoo! They have been blessed with 2 boys, Alexander, who is 18, and Andrew, who is 15. Please welcome Attorney Lawrence Lewis. Thank you. Next person is Professor Jonathanraffin. Professor Jonathanraffin is currently a law professor at Atlanta's John Marshall Law School. He attended the University of Chicago and received his BA. He then went on to attend grad school at Princeton University and obtained his MPA. After graduate school, he decided to go to law school and attended George Washington University Law School in 2007. He served as the training chief for the Orleans Public Defender Program, working to rebuild New Orleans Public Defender Office in the wake of Hurricane Katrina. In the 10 years prior to his work in New Orleans, he served in the public defender's offices of Georgia and Washington, D.C., developing and implementing public defender training programs and handling a caseload of serious felonies. Something that I would really like to highlight about Professor Rappin is the fact that he founded the Gideon's Promise, which is featured in the award-winning HBO documentary Gideon's Army. Professor Rappin's organization, the Gideon's Promise, partnered with the Maryland Office of Public Defender, and the partnership will help the OPD to improve the quality of representation in that state. This is a huge program, and for which he has also won an award. He was named a 2014 MacArthur Foundation, this is a bit tiny, Genius Award, Genius Fellow for the impact his nonprofit organization, the Gideon's Promise, has made on society. The MacArthur Fellow Program awards unrestricted fellowships to talented individuals who have shown extraordinary originality and dedication in their creative pursuits and a marked capacity for self-direction. Please welcome with me today Professor Jonathanraffin. Thank you. The next person is Dr. Bobby Gray. He's the founder of Brothers Making Moves, which is considered a revolutionary movement. He is currently a professional school counselor at Lanier High School, and he's the founder, I already said, he's the founder of Brothers Making Moves organization. He's been a school counselor for 18 years in both New Jersey school system and the Gwinnett County school system. He's a professional, His professional experience includes working as a counselor for young men in the prison system, and then in New Jersey. And he also works as a family advocate for the Juvenile Justice Commission of New Jersey. And he runs several mentoring programs for youths and men in Gwinnett County and New Jersey area. Dr. Gray is married to his beautiful wife, Kia, and they have three sons. In his spare time, he enjoys playing and coaching basketball, reading and volunteering, and his time in various humanitarian causes. Please welcome with me, Dr. Bobby Gray. The next person is Coach D, as is popularly called. He's certified mentor, life coach, and basketball player development trainer. He's a 2019 Humanitarian Award recipient. He co-founded the nonprofit organization called Here to Help in 2006. Age to Age Incorporated serves about 20,000 people a year through various programs and initiatives. You can see more information on their website, Age to Age, or Here to Help. Welcome with me, Coach D. And we have two moderators today, Joshua Elbaz and Albert Thompson. Joshua was born in Atlanta, Georgia in March of 1991. He grew up in Lawrenceville, and he's the middle of three children, and tragically lost his older brother, Brendan, in September 2011. And he also recently lost his younger brother, Alex, in February of this year. These tragedies have further pushed Joshua to pursue a career in criminal defense to provide underprivileged people an opportunity for a second chance at life. Joshua attended high school at North Gwinnett High School in Suwanee, Georgia, and he graduated in May 2009. He then attended Georgia Gwinnett College in Lawrenceville, Georgia, and majored in business administration. He's currently a rising 2L law student at Atlanta's John Marshall Law School, where he's currently has taken a keen interest in criminal defense. Joshua is currently interning with attorney Lawrence Lewis, the City Connection, where he's hoping to obtain as much knowledge as he can while gaining practical skills in trial work and criminal proceedings. He enjoys watching and playing basketball, tennis, and boxing. Joshua is a remarkable young man who has gone through a lot, and he could have used those, tragedies as the excuse, for misbehaving. But it's noteworthy that he's got his life on the right path, and is actually looking to use those experiences to help, his generation and other people. Please welcome with me Joshua Elbaz. Next person is Albert Thompson. Albert was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. He completed his 4 years of undergraduate at Furman University, where he received his Bachelor of Science in Neuroscience. Albert comes from a science background, but has always had an underlying interest in law. Prior to attending John Marshall Law School, he spent time working in the medical field. He hopes to practice medical malpractice litigation, representing those that have been catastrophically injured. Albert and Joshua will be moderating the event today, and I will just be in the background facilitating. Again, you're all welcome to this event. We hope you learn a lot. Like Maya Angelou said, when people know better, they will do better. We hope you would go away from this event today with a lot of information, with a lot of insight that we can all turn around and use for our society, for our communities. I'm turning it over now to Joshua. In the course of the meeting, please feel free to post your questions in the chat room. Basically, send it to me, Bola Odetokun, or to Parenting Initiatives, and we'll pick them, intermittently. Thank you, and have a nice time. We're glad to have you here. Over to you, Joshua.
All right. First, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's joining us here on live, YouTube and Zoom. I worked really hard to try to put this event together with the Parenting Initiative, and I just wanted to say thank you for joining us today. Me and my colleague Albert, as she previously stated, we're both currently Rising 2L law students. So the way that the panel is going to work is we're going to go ahead and just ask certain questions to individuals, more of a team pattern. So like, there's going to be certain questions that I'm going to have directed towards Attorney Mr. Lewis and Professor Jonathanraffin. And then Albert will go ahead and ask certain questions for Dr. Bobby Guay and for Coach D. And then we're going to, obviously the questions are not just for those two individuals where this is a discussion. So we want to talk, we want to cross conversations here. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. We're going to go ahead and ask the first question that's going to be directed towards Lawrence Lewis and Professor Rapping. I want to start with you, Mr. Lewis. The first question I want to ask you is what do you believe the role of the criminal justice system is today?
Can you hear me?
I can.
Fantastic. This is what I'll tell you. The criminal justice system has its own idea of what's supposed to happen in the criminal justice system. So I would say in law school, you learn that there is retribution, punishment, general deterrence, specific deterrence. I would suspect that if you speak to the judges and you speak to the prosecutors, I would suspect that they would indicate to you that the system itself is meant to address general deterrence, to the extent that if a person is prosecuted, it would serve as notice to other people of what behavior would ultimately be acceptable, what behavior would not be acceptable. I suspect they also might say that it would be a specific deterrent to the extent that a person would be in custody, and hopefully that being in custody would show them that ultimately they need to change their behavior. For me, having worked 5 years as a prosecutor, 20 years as a defense attorney, the system for me is really just a way of dealing with dysfunction that has gone past a certain point. I probably represented about 4,000 clients over the last 20 years. And those cases break down into one of three areas. Number one, drugs and alcohol. Drugs and alcohol probably touch about 70% of the cases that I'm involved in. Doesn't matter what the charge is, murder, burglary, armed robbery, drugs and alcohol is there. Another 25% is most of the defendants are men. I'm with the wrong woman. I have beer money and she has champagne tastes. And so I have to do some other things to try to make up the difference between what I can give her and the type of person she is, or what it is that I think that she needs. That last 5%, that's mental health. The interesting thing about mental health is I would say half of the mental health problems, drug and alcohol related, half of the mental health problems come from me being with the wrong woman too long. So I would say a lot of the criminal justice system, when you start talking about even mental health, organic mental health is probably a very small percentage in terms of what I've seen, drugs and alcohol, and I'm just not with the person that I need to be with. And so the criminal justice system is addressing the dysfunction of the alcohol and drug use. It's addressing the dysfunction of you being with the wrong person. And that's what I see as being really the role of the criminal justice system. They're dealing with that. That's what they're dealing with. So if as my 15-year-old said when he was 12 inside the QT, so if I don't drink drugs and alcohol and I marry the right woman, I won't ever be in the criminal justice system. That's pretty much it. That's it in a nutshell. No drugs and alcohol, marry the right woman, you won't be in the criminal justice system.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. And I want to redirect that same question to Professor Rapping. For you to be able to answer that and also for a rebuttal if necessary.
Well, let me first say I'm really honored to be here in this space with you all. I appreciate Attorney Lewis's response. I don't know if I'd say look, we have some democratic ideals. We have ideals we teach in law school. We have ideals about what justice means, about what due process looks like. We ideally strive for equal justice that is applied in a manner that doesn't discriminate based on income and race. In reality, our criminal justice system looks nothing like those ideals. So if you ask what our criminal justice system is supposed to do, I think I would answer it like this. I'm a parent. I have two children, a 15-year-old, a 12-year-old. I have rules in my house and I expect my children to follow the rules. And when they don't follow the rules, there are consequences. I don't even like to say punishment. I say there are consequences. And my wife and I designed consequences to try to ensure that our children continue to grow as healthy, productive, contributing human beings. We never designed consequences that are meant to crush our children, cripple our children, render them unable to have meaningful lives. And I believe our criminal justice system ideally would be a system that treats every person's children the way we would treat our own. In reality, we have a criminal justice system that is really almost reserved exclusively for poor people. 80% of the people charged with crimes in America are so poor they qualify for court-appointed lawyers. In many places, that means they are living below the poverty line. Disproportionately, people in the criminal justice system are Black and brown people. You are 6 times more likely, all else being equal, to end up in the criminal justice system if you are Black than if you're white. And the system really is a system that applies very punitive responses to our most marginalized communities. So my work is building a community of public defenders to try to transform the criminal justice system, because I think when you work with communities impacted, and as public defenders, we work exclusively with the lowest income members of society, what you really learn is that we have not figured out as a society how to deal with all of the problems that plague marginalized communities, whether it's substance abuse, illiteracy, homelessness, mental health. All of those challenges are addressed in America in our criminal justice system. Right? It is the one place we have to deal with those issues. So I'll wrap up by saying this. I really think that we as a nation have embraced a 400-year narrative that says some people are less human. We see uprisings going on across the nation over the last couple weeks because that narrative that says some people aren't human have led to violent killings in the streets that have been captured on videotape. But the thing that I think is important to remember is that for every police killing that happens on the street that's captured on videotape, tens of thousands of people survive encounters with police, end up in the criminal justice system, and are subjected to a routine violence in the courts that is not captured on video, that's not flashed across CNN, that is going on invisibly, where they are put in cages pre-trial because they're too poor to make money bond. They are overcharged. They are coerced into pleading guilty. Less than 5% of the cases in our criminal justice system ever even have a trial, despite the fact that that is the vehicle the founders envisioned to ensure justice was done. So I will end by saying I think we have a long way to go to ultimately realize the democratic promise of equal justice in America.
Thank you, Professor Rappin. I just have a follow-up question. Obviously, we want to keep the conversation moving and have Dr. Gray have an opportunity as well as Coach D. Dr. Rappin, or Professor Rappin, excuse me. The one question that I do have, just to follow up on your answer is why do you believe that it is that only 5% of criminal defendants ever go to jury trials? Why do you think it is that they never make it to a jury trial?
Well, because we have an ideal. And that ideal is that justice will be determined through a process that includes lawyers and juries and trials. And then we have a reality. And the reality is we punish much more behavior than we're willing to pay to handle justly. And so there is pressure to process large volumes of cases. We call them cases. We don't even call them human beings. Large volumes of cases quickly and efficiently. And in an effort to do that, prosecutors have found ways to use tools like overcharging, pretrial detention, the threat of harsh punishment to essentially, I would argue, coerce people. The cost of going to trial can be so great that many people just forgo that right because they feel like they have no other option. Plea bargaining is the way we have learned to deal with huge volumes of cases that we're not willing to address consistent with our founders' ideals.
Thank you. And a quick response if you want, Mr. Lewis, 30 seconds to that. I got to be able to give opportunities to everyone. I'm sorry.
I understand. Part of this process is me actually listening to what Professor Rappin is saying rather than forming a response. And so I like to listen to what Professor Rappin is saying. I'm sort of in it. I've been in it for 20 years. If I go see 200 people at the jail today or this year, 199 will say that they're innocent. And if you're innocent, you're going to have a jury trial, which is why I'm going to drop so many speedy trial demands. I'm not going to sit around. I love what he said, coerced into pleading guilty. I'm not coercing anybody into pleading guilty. If you say you're innocent, I'm going to drop a speedy trial demand. I typically drop about 50 a year, but those 50 speedy trial demands still only turn into 15 trials. Why? Because when the jury is standing outside, people realize, wait a minute, this game of chicken and I'm playing with the prosecutor, it's probably not going to work. See, the prosecutor's overcharging, I got that, but the defendants are also playing a little game where they don't want to accept any accountability for what they've done either. Because I don't think the police on 200 arrests, all of my cases, 199 they got wrong, come on. So I like dropping speedy trial demands, and then when people realize, wait a minute, this cat is really gonna take me to trial, they come to the realization of what's going on, and then we start talking like we got some sense.
Thank you. Thank you, Attorney Lewis. Albert, I'm going to hand it over to you for the next question.
I come from a tribe called the Bassa tribe. And one of the traditions in that tribe, you all have heard about the rites of passage. That rites of passage was something that was very, very evident in our tribal traditions. In the African tradition, they would take boys around the age of 10, 11, the elder men in the village would take them into the hinterland sometime up to a month or so. And during that time, those young men would go through a mind, body, and spiritual transformation.